Hello and welcome to Manitoba's Judo history. As I have told you in my previous video, RCMP's officers have played a great role in the growth in Western Canada. In Winnipeg, it is two brothers and police officers, Glenn and George Pridmore, from St. James area of Winnipeg. They started what they called Judo Club at the Central YMCA in 1937. But they reportedly taught a mix of jujutsu and others unarmed close combat techniques. And they called it judo because it was a popular term at that time. The club appears to have closed at some point and then reopened in 1947. We have to talk about a very important player in Manitoba's judo. His name is Tomatsu Mitani. Mitani was born in Japan and moved from BC to Manitoba to avoid internment in 1942. He once visited the Pridmore's Judo Club in 1948 and assigned two of his IQ students to assist them. IQ is brown belt. We have to say that there is no official records saying that Mitani has been teaching judo during the 6 years since he have arrived in Winnipeg, but the facts that he had students suggested that he was. By 1950, Mitani had taken over the YMCA club and established branches with the help of Ron Fulton, Jack Kelly, and Jimmy Iwabuchi at Carpicut's Barracks, the Royal Canadian Air Force Base, and the RCMP's barracks on Portage Avenue. There's another guy, Bob Demby, started another short-lived judo club at the YMCA, which was followed by a self-defense class. This was organized by Ron Fulton, that slowly became a judo club over the years. In 1952, Mitani established the Manitoba Judo Institute with the help of Harold Shimane and Noboru Shimizu. It was on the 7th floor of the McIntyre block on Main Street. I suppose the warm-up was to use the stairs instead of the escalator to reach the dojo. There was also a club at the Air Force Base as early as 1956 with Officer Vincel and De La Salle, and this club was supported by Mitani. But a 1960 article in the newspaper reports that it was founded by Mas Takahashi in 1958. Takahashi was in the Royal Canadian Air Force at that time. The first club outside Winnipeg was based at the Brampton YMCA in 1953, and the teacher was Harold Starn. Starn is a former British Special Forces soldier who received judo training from the Japanese prisoner he guarded in Burma during the war. Now we surely have to talk about Mo Oye. Mo Oye was interned in the Popov detention camp in 1943. I've talked about those camps in the last video. I invite you to see them. He was not allowed to practice and had to watch through a window in the wooden building that houses the community center, as there is no place for the little ones. He must be content to observe while waiting his turn. That turn wouldn't come until a few years later when Mo and his family were resettled in Manitoba. Mo Oye enrolled at the age of 11 in the dojo that Tom Mitani runs in the RCMP barracks, and practices were held on Sunday mornings. At first, there are no Westerners among the students. As almost always happens to clubs in their early days, the club moves frequently. Having a dojo is very important for the Japanese community, and this community assumes a part of the expenses. Mitani receives only a minimal contribution. Meanwhile, Mo Oye made a name for himself in the competitive field and looked forward to the Second Canadian Championships to be held in Winnipeg in 1959. At that time, the boss of Manitoba's judo was Atsumu Kamino, who came to Winnipeg 2 years before to take care of the new CKBBA business and award degrees. Mo Oye twice wins the Central West Canadian Championship, open weight at that time. The performance convinces Camino to award him the black belt. Provincial rank commissions do not yet exist in their present form. When the first Canadian Championship finally arrived in 1959, Moy was part of the team of 5 representing the Central West. He finished fifth, a respectable ranking for his first participation in a tournament of this magnitude. It will not be the last, although Mo will devote himself more and more to training and teaching. Sadly, Tom Mitani died in '63. 4 years later, Moy finished third in the national championship and became a sensei. He's in early 20s. Moye earned his college education working for the Canadian National in northern Manitoba. He opened a dojo in a remote community near Churchill and ran the facility for 2 years. He then returned to Winnipeg and enrolled at the University of Manitoba, where he obtained a Bachelor of Education degree and became a secondary school teacher. The coach Oye's reputation is spreading. Mo Oye became increasingly involved in teaching and coaching and was deeply involved in organizing judo in Manitoba. Besides producing about 60 black belts, including his son Stephen, who was national champion in 1997, Mo Oye coaches remarkable athletes. Let's talk about them. Mark Berger, this Ukrainian moved in Canada just before the LA Olympics game and got the bronze. At the World Championship in Maastricht, Netherlands, he got 7th. This was in 1983. He also won the Pan Am Games in Caracas, Venezuela. And at the Worlds of '83 in Moscow, he placed himself 5th. There's another one, very famous, he won beaten. He won beaten after a very good career as a fighter at the Olympic level. This was in '92 and '96, I believe. Beaton became a top-level coach in the country. And at last, but not the least, is Nikki Jenkins. Nikki Jenkins she was a medalist at the Pan Am Games and a very, very good fighter. And she's the wife of Neil Adams. Back to Mo Oye history. He also had a lot of job in the administration of judo, coach of the provincial team, president of Judo Manitoba, president of the grading board, and so on and so on and so on. The list is endless. And despite the magnitude of his task, Mo never neglected the human element. Every Wednesday evening, his black belts, many of whom have now their dojo, are returning to train to his home. We can say that Mo Oye is the flag of the Manitoban judo. Now let's talk about Saskatchewan's judo. At Regina in 1960, the Irish transplants like Jim O'Sullivan couldn't rely on Gaelic sports like hurley to fill their spare time. So, Jim joined the YMCA. With Mo Brown as his sensei, the 27 embraced judo as it had been always in his blood. O'Sullivan won the provincial title in 1967, but he injured a nerve in his wrist during the tournament and had to undergo an operation which ended his competitive career. Although he was only a blue belt at that time, this judo lover opened a dojo in Prince Albert, where he had moved in the meantime. You know, opening a dojo when you are a blue or brown belt was not unusual. I myself opened mine when I was blue belt. In those times there were not many black belts outside very big towns. Sensei Mo Brown sponsored the dojo. Like most senseis, Brown was eager to see his students succeed. So he often traveled to Regina or Prince Albert to award grades, give a training or a camp. In 1979, the club hosted the Canadian Championship, Women and Junior. I was there as a coach for the Quebec team, and I saw on this occasion, an honorary black belt was presented to then Prime Minister John Diefenbaker. In addition to his activities as a sensei, between 1960 and today, O'Sullivan saw the numbers of dojo increase from 8 to 21 in Saskatchewan. Director of the maximum security prison in Prince Albert for 25 years, he claims that his club, based in the gymnasium of this disused prison, enjoy one of the best facilities in Canada. So this was it for the Manitoba and Saskatchewan's judo history. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Give us a thumbs up, it will help. Don't forget the notification and the bell, and please subscribe to my channel. See you next time. Take care of yourself. Bye.